أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم نور قلوبنا واشرح صدورنا بنور القرآن والإيمان والإسلام اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I apologize for the delay. So I hope you can hear me well and the screen share is proper. So if not, please let me know. Otherwise, I will assume everything is fine. Inshallah, we will continue with the 25th word. First light, first ray, fifth point. And the whole 25th word is about the miraculousness of Quran. And with this specific part that we are studying, we're studying its style of the exposition, its elegance in style of exposition, the way Quran explains things. And we studied so far different examples pertaining to examples of giving proof or proving something, examples of encouragement, and also an example from restraining. So how all these different modes of communication, like encouragement, restraining, urging, proving, silencing in an argument, so on and so forth, how these different categories are included in Quran with the best examples. So that was the topic of last a few weeks. And inshallah, today we will continue with another example from category of proof and demonstration. So we will study a verse, two verses actually, and then if we have time, maybe one more verse. We will study two verses in which the resurrection, life after death, is proved or demonstrated. So demonstration is an awkward word, at least it sounds at the beginning, to be used with resurrection. So demonstrating the truth in resurrection, again, it sounds like a paradoxical, or at least a miraculous. Hence, we are studying the miraculousness of Quran. And let's continue, inshallah. I need a volunteer to read the two verses in Arabic, inshallah. Waiting for hands to be raised. I know there are people who can read Arabic with a perfect fluency. Okay, Yusuf, you are definitely not one of them, but still, you are welcome. Just kidding. Please go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم.
Jazakallah khairan. Okay, that was not bad. This is roughly translates This roughly translates in, and he presents for us an example and forgets his creation. He says, who will give life to bones while they are disintegrated? Who will give life to bones while they are disintegrated? Say, he will give them life who produced, or he who produced them the first time will give them life. And he is of all creation knowing. Or he is the all-knowing, maybe. So inshallah, we will study these two verses from Surah Yasin. And we know that the Surah Yasin is full of references to the prophethood, the message they bring, how people deny this message, and being maybe one of the most important components, the ingredients of this message. The resurrection is, of course, at the center stage in this Surah Yasin. And this part is, again, about the resurrection. So I'm just trying to open the verse to see the before and after. Yeah. So this verse is like, before this verse, the verses goes like, let me share the screen. Sorry for not thinking that before. So I will, inshallah, share the screen. New share. Yep. Okay. You should be able to see the new screen, inshallah. So the verses before, like for instance, the 73, and even before that, it goes listing many benefits or many bounties that's been bestowed upon us, so that we will be grateful, thankful to our Lord. Things like the animals being subjected to us so that we may ride and eat, and then that, like, from animals we get other benefits as well. And it asks, like, will they not then give thanks? Will they not be thankful? After this question, it continues, like, instead of being thankful, actually what they did instead, they have taken other gods besides God, Allah, hoping to be helped by them, hoping that there will be help for them by these false gods, idols. So this is the context, right? We are reminded all these beautiful bounties that are given to us, and these beautiful bounties start with the revelation, the message that the prophet brings. Because this revelation, without this revelation, our life is purely chaotic. no meaning, no purpose. Everything needs to be clarified for us. But whatever we have around, they cannot provide any clarification, any purpose for us. Hence, the value of the message and the prophethood. So our Lord sends down the prophet, sends down the message. And then other bounties reminded here, which, followed by the question, wouldn't you, or will not they, or will you not be thankful, give thanks? So this is what is expected from you. But instead, what we do, what we do, is taken other gods besides Allah, worshipping idols, and our expectation that they will help us. And we can count many such idols, like our statue, like our title, like our work, our parents, our children, our partners, friends, our toys, even the food, the medicine, vaccines, right? We expect them to help us. Some institutions, like World Health Institution, organization, or you can give many other examples. The false idols that we worship, in the very meaning, in the dictionary meaning of worship, that we worship. And then it continues. This translation, it's I don't want to say strange, but I'm sure this scholar knows much more than myself. I guess the literal translation is that these false idols, are not able to help them. So we worship these false idols so that they will help us, but actually they are not able to help us at all. And indeed, they need our help, right? Even though they serve the idols as dedicated gods. So they need us to protect them. They need us to help them. Without our fear, for instance, many pharmaceutical companies are nothing. They just doomed to go bankrupt. They they feed from our fears, that we have to help them to survive. All these different false idols, they survive through our belief towards them. This oppressive statue of social statue of different occupations, different titles. I am Dr. XYZ, and I have this authority to oppress you. Whatever I say is true. Right? We experience this attitude. But this is true just because we love them, just because we worship them. Nowadays, this is so obvious that it's almost ridiculous, that we beg certain institutions, certain, the authorities to restrain our rights, to make us, take to give away some of our rights, puts us in our homes, like do not allow us to get outside. Please do not, allow us to practice our certain freedoms so that you will protect us. They cannot help us, and even they need our help to be protected, to survive. And then within this context, it continues, so don't let their words grieve you. Indeed, so I'm checking if there's this old prophet in the original. I assume it's the edition of the translator. Again, I respect a lot. So this must be one way to translate it. Another way is just to read it as it's being told to us. So do not let their words grieve you. Indeed, we fully know what they conceal and what they reveal. Do people not see that we have created them? So this is important. Do people not see that we have created them from a sperm drop? Then behold, they openly challenge us. So don't you consider, don't you know, don't you see that you are being created, and being created from almost nothing, both in terms of the material and also the value. That what you are being created, it's just a valueless, disgusting thing. You are nothing, and you are being created from nothing. Then behold, although this is the fact, we openly challenge our Lord, or the order that we observe. And then comes the two verses that we will study today, inshallah. And they argue with us, forgetting that they were created, saying, who will give life to decayed bones? Say, they will be revived by the one who produced them the first time, for he has perfect knowledge of every created being. Alim. Okay, let's read the text, which sees or gives these two verses as an example of demonstration and proof. Here, it's a proof for resurrection. And how it is proved? They will be revived by the one who produced them the first time. So I will again share the other screen, and we can continue from there, inshallah. And one of the concise and miraculous examples of the category of proof and demonstration is this. Actually, Aziz, would you like to volunteer for reading? It's just 1 or 2 paragraphs. It's very short, so that I can also get a little rest.
Sure. So I'm starting from and one of the concise.
Exactly.
Okay.
And ending with the end of this second paragraph.
Okay, now I wish I raised my hand earlier for the Arabic. It's much
Yes,
easier for me.
exactly. Next time, keep this in mind. Okay.
Okay. And one of the concise and miraculous examples of the category of proof and demonstration is this. He says, who will raise to life these bones when they are rotted? Say, he will raise them. Okay, who will raise to life his bones when they are rotted? Say, he will raise them who created them in the first instance, for he has full knowledge of every kind of creation. That is, man asks, who will resurrect decayed bones? You say, whoever made them in the first place and gave them life, he will resurrect them, as was depicted in the third comparison of the ninth truth in the 10th word. If someone reassembles a large army in one day before your eyes, and someone else says at a bugle call, I don't know what that means, that person brought together the members of a battalion who had dispersed to rest. He is able to bring the battalion under order. And you say, oh man, I don't believe it. You can see what a foolish denial it would be. In just the same way, the all-powerful and all-knowing one enrolls and unites anew with the command of be, and it is, and with perfect order and the balance of wisdom, the particles and subtle faculties of the battalion-like bodies of all the animals, which are like an army and other living creatures, and creates every century and every spring even all the hundreds of thousands of army-like species of living creatures on the face of the earth. Can it be questioned then how he can gather together at one blast of Israfil's trumpet the fundamental parts and particles of a battalion-like body, which are already familiar with one another, through taking them under order? Can it be considered unlikely? If it is considered unlikely, it is a mindless foolishness.
Jazakallah khairan. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's see hands and hear comments or questions about the verses that we read, also the text that we just read. You may also, make comments about my initial comments about the World Health Organization, if you like, or any profession. But of course, I prefer sticking to verses and the text. Okay, Yusuf, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So it should be better now. Yeah, the example seems to be very simple, very easy to understand. As if such a hard topic being explained with such a simple example. More than anything, his reference to Israfil and Israfil's trumpet was interesting to me, because this is how it has been depicted to us. Like in terms of resurrection, Israfil is going to blow that trumpet. This is one of the angels waving some there, and then we are going to get resurrected. So this imagery, taking it as it is, seems very distant. This might be one of the reasons that we take it very unlikely. But the author is reminding us of what is going to be put together with that trumpet, if you like. It is what seems very unlikely to me is once my body gets all the things, all the particles in my body, my soul and everything just goes to different locations, like it rots. How are they going to come together? Or are they going to be put together at some point? And as if by giving the example of this army, which also shows us the wisdom behind this imagery of an angel blowing a trumpet and like the dead body is being resurrected, as if it is reminding us of everything is already being obedient to the command of the creator. Everything is happening within that command. And as I see this, in the first place, he is the one who put together the army. Then doing it for a second time is very much easier than making it in the first place. But I am already observing the first time it is being done. Actually, I am living right inside it right now. This is one aspect to make it very easy and familiar, but also we can also expand this to another resurrection that also happens with the blow of an angel. Like in every spring, as if the thunders are blows of Israfil, if you like, and the dead plants of the last year, their particles are being gathered together from all different and distant places, and then they're being resurrected again. Actually, this is a recurring event, an angel blowing to the trumpet and dead bodies being resurrected is happening day in, day out. So observing this, and Quran is inviting me to observe this scenery, and then still claiming that, well, how about after I die, am I going to get resurrected? As if Quran makes me question what it is really that worries you. Is it that once you get dispersed, you're not going to get put together? But your maker is already able to do that. What makes you think that this is unlikely? He is unable. So I guess this way of explaining it really sweeps away the worries or the questions that I have to give me the confidence or the security that I am looking for.
Jazakallah khairan. A beautiful summary. Any other comments, questions? Abdulaziz, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? Okay. So I just wanted to share actually this week I saw this advertisement about a show in Netflix called Surviving Death. And I was like, okay, I want to survive this. I need to watch this. And I highly recommend at least the first episode of it was about near-death experiences. And they had a lot of folks that experienced some like really interesting, amazing things. This sounds like that to me. But and they were really exploring why they think that our consciousness may continue after we die. And I probably watched 4 or so episodes this week. And but it's really none of them really brought his argument that he will raise them who created them in the first instance. It just seems very straightforward argument or something to think about. And honestly, I knew this by heart, but I didn't even think about it. But now looking at it and after watching the documentary, it's just really refreshing. It's that straightforward. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Like the person who our Lord who made them at the first place, he could easily make them again. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah khairan. Yeah, that's a really important point. These ayah or proof given here being simple and straightforward. But some among us may think that it's not that straightforward or that simple. So I'm eager to hear them as well. So if there are parts that you cannot grasp easily, that you cannot understand or agree, please go ahead and share with us. That would be great. Maybe it is not that simple or straightforward. Maybe we are just being biased, or at least, Aziz and myself. Hatice, Beyza, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Just to give others some time to think as well. I guess what attracts my attention here is you can't really address where man is going without addressing where he came from. The two are tied together. So when we talk about, or when anybody talks about resurrection or consciousness after life, or life after death, consciousness after death, or life after death, if the foundation for that argument does not address the beginnings of man, or if it does address the beginnings of man, but limited to that of the universe, meaning that, that in my existence and in my being, I came from all of these particles that just ended up happening, or that just ended up working together so in such a way, not as a result of a conscious will, but in and of themselves, then yeah, you can't really take my own death anywhere else but the grave. So I think it really just depends on how the beginning. If I don't address the beginning, how am I going to address the end in a comprehensive way? And how do I address the beginning as well?
This is extremely important. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. So the link between our origin in every moment, the link between our origin and our future. What will happen to me is answered through what I am, or where did I come from. And again, it is another really important thing that Sister Khadija mentioned, that even if we consider where did we come from, where we came from, if we restrain ourselves, if we constrain ourselves, limit ourselves to an explanation within this universe, again, we lose a lot. And we try to explain what will happen to us, or what happens to us, only through very limited and mostly wrong conception of being a human. Without acknowledging being created, it seems any answer that we try to give to such questions, they are necessarily, ends up foolish, or at most satisfactory, being lack of being satisfactory. Osman, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So just to share or continue along the lines of what's been already discussed, one point that is really important for me when reading the text and especially the verses is that the attention is brought back to my being and questioning essentially my place or my position in this world. And by that, I mean, it is oftentimes easy to kind of look beyond myself and then start to theorize about what will happen, but then taking a pause and then thinking about my own existence, and most importantly, not taking it for granted, but trying to question how am I being sustained today, now, essentially answers the question for me of basically I am not so I'm not sustaining myself. Whoever is sustaining me today, or whoever brought me into existence into this world yesterday, today, or in the future will do so again tomorrow or in the future. So with that, I mean the this method of looking at the evidence, so essentially reasoning with my own experience, this Quranic way of looking at the matter of you want to know who will resurrect you tomorrow, who resurrected or who is giving you life today, or who gave you life yesterday. And it's true, it's a very simple way of thinking, but it's at the same time it's very powerful because it really strips away any assumptions of self-sustenance, that I am sustaining myself somehow, which is indeed an illusion. I don't know how I came to this world. I do not control things that are happening to me in this world in the sense of my sustenance, my existence. I have no idea how I exist, but I do. I am being given existence without my power. So this realization that somebody's taking care of me, that is sustaining me, and administering everything from the subatomic particles all the way to the galaxies, everything is being administered for me to be alive and for me to be sustained in this world. So this line of reasoning for me is very satisfying. At least I don't feel worried, or I don't feel concerned about what will happen to me in the future, because I already know that I don't have any power over it today at this moment. So this Quranic way of reasoning is really brings peace, at least in my thinking, when I realize that everything is out of my control anyway. But knowing that somebody is sustaining me and fulfilling my needs today gives me peace that he will do so tomorrow as well.
Jazakallah khairan. So I think, yeah, this emphasis on knowing yourself, your reality in the moment, or considering your past is the key. And it seems that this is the key that being used in this demonstration, the proof in these two ayahs. I'm still eager to hear other comments and questions. While people thinking, so it's interesting to hear others talking about this kind of topics like life after that or afterlife, and at least personally, I might be missing something. So please share your thoughts about that as well. I find it silly, in its best form, or in the most innocent form. I find it silly to talk about the near-death experiences when it comes to such a topic, and this is the almost exclusively only thing that is being discussed. So I'm not saying this as a response to our beloved brother Aziz. He was just giving an example, but this is true that these near-death experiences, it's almost the only thing that being discussed when it comes to discussions about life after death. It's as if there's a huge darkness there when it comes to life after death. There's a huge darkness that we cannot see anything, and we need some people who goes there, whatever there means, who goes there, at least get near, close to there, and have a glimpse, which usually narrated as seeing a light, and then come back and give us some news. So trying to see a faint light in a dark tunnel, which is how it is depicted, right? Is near that experiences usually. And then giving news of this faint light to other beings, like myself, who haven't experienced in any phenomenon which can be called as near-death experience. Or another way to approach it is usually like talking about human mind, human consciousness, and how it transcends the material beings. It's usually narrated with certain formulas, equations, some chemical, the explanations regarding some chemicals, making it extremely complex. And usually, people say, oh, the human mind is the most complex things in the universe. This is true from one aspect, of course, but it also gives the impression that any comment, any discussion about what happens to human consciousness after death has to be extremely complex. It has to be studied for long years with people who has multiple PhDs, or at least one. It has to be discussed by people who spend several years to be expert in certain domains of philosophy. It is extremely complex, the topic. Or it is approached by some others as a mysterious thing. Human spirit, different dimensions, and so on and so forth. So beyond that, all mystery, mysticism, extremely complex scientific entity, or a faint light at the end of the tunnel, other than that, these approaches, I do not hear much about afterlife. But here, the author says, do you want a proof for afterlife? Do you want a demonstration for afterlife? Just look at yourself, how you've been created in the first place. You are being created from nothing. And you are alive, right? You exist. And every year, your body is renewed. Yourself is renewed. Maybe every moment you are renewed. So there's always that, and then resurrection for you. If you think these examples of being resurrected every moment is too far-fetched, okay, just look at how you've been created in the first place. The first time you came to existence from nothing. So this is how you will be resurrected again. Or at least there is no doubt that the one who gives you life, existence in the first place, can give you existence again. At least there shouldn't be any doubt on that, about that. This is different, as others said, like this very interestingly simple way of talking about it. There's no reference to any lights or complex entities or mysterious spirits. How you are being created in the first place. What do you think? Maybe I'm again missing something. Maybe other modes of discussions, other types of discussions are also fruitful. I'm open to be criticized here. So please go ahead. Yusuf, please.
Yes, I think it is good that since this is a problem of everyone, Quran is providing an answer that everyone can verify, everyone can utilize. I mean, definitely, if somebody went through some sort of an experience, it's valuable for that person. And if you trust to that person's word, it might also be valuable for you. But this is such a real and personal problem that, and as if it's the most important question of a human's life, where am I going to? What's going to happen to me? So, and if you simply think about how much you think, how you're going to invest your money and how much attention you put into it, how seriously you take it. So this is investment of your life. And are you going to just rely on somebody else's word on it, or would you like to put more on it? So since it is such a central question, Quran is bringing us this way of verifying it for ourselves. Because otherwise, even if you would like to trust somebody else's word, which is fine, but you will always be anxious. So, but the answers that are being brought in here and making it available and accessible to a lay person also is such a strong message and such a, as if I would expect such an answer from my creator. Because I would say, you made water and air such essential needs of me, and you provided these, one of them, actually both of them from air. Like from very unexpected places, from the skies you are constantly bringing me air and water. But this question's answer to that question is as essential to me. But as you said, it shouldn't require a PhD to answer such a question. Likewise, I don't need to get a like so hard to breathe an air or drink water. These are the cheapest things, the most available things, and they are the things that I need most. Likewise, the answer to that question is something that I need most. More than anything, I would like to know what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to my family. So the way Quran is giving those answers and making it available to layperson, to everyone, is so valuable, and actually it was essential. So once I see it in Quran, I would say this is how it was supposed to be actually. Alhamdulillah, this is speech of God. God would make this as simple to me. Otherwise, as you gave the example, if I go and ask scientists or other people, they're going to tell me all different and cumbersome ways of answering this question. And they are not being complete answers either. They are being partial answers, or if you trust me, this is what I say sort of answers. But alhamdulillah, the answer that's being given here is very straightforward, yet very strong.
Jazakallah khairan. So it seems most of us, at least the people who talk so far, are on the same page, kind of, which bothers me a little. So it is possible that, you know, we are not seeing the bigger picture or some details maybe. So I would appreciate if others, or you know, anyone who can share maybe a disagreement, maybe something that we are missing, that would be even more valuable. And there's a long comment. So normally I would ask the author to read and, you know, they elaborate it, but because it's coming from beloved brother Abdurrahman, I will make an exception and read it. He says it is not so much the if he, the one who gives me life, can give me life after that. It is not so much if he can give me life after that, but rather will he. And yes, this is a topic that comes up again and again, about how the one who gives me feelings for eternal existence must also fulfill it. However, the complete unknownness, this is not Abdurrahman. However, the complete unknownness of the situation of that makes the issue opaque at times for me. Perhaps it is more merciful that I do not exist again. I can reason myself to the conclusion that there will be existence, but this conclusion does not quite lie at certainty within me, and I'm not sure of what is holding me back from such certainty. Perhaps it is more merciful that I don't exist again. Yes, this darkness cannot be from Abdurrahman. I can reason myself to the conclusion that there will be existence, but this conclusion does not quite lie at certainty within me, and I'm not sure of what is holding me back from such certainty. Just a snippet from my state of being, as expected. Ayşenur. Jazakallah khairan. Yes, I think this is extremely valuable, this comment. It summarizes, let's say, a practical, almost real state of human being, even though we would think that he can give us life, after that we still have these uncertainties about whether this will happen or not. Even if I take it for the moment, there's always this unknownness, this uncertainty, and which is not easily resolved. So I believe, as a response to that comment, or maybe addition to that comment, Suhail says, mercy and non-existence are not compatible. This is definitely Suhail, so I'm not looking for another name. Mercy and non-existence are not compatible. So I'm glad this discussion, initiated, because I think this will be extremely fruitful to going deeper on that topic. So Ayşenur, if you like to, share or elaborate more, you are more than welcome. I would highly appreciate that. And then after you, inshallah, we can, if he is available, we can also listen Suhail. If you are not available or in the mood, please let me know. No offense will be taken.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank
you for generously reading that long comment of mine. Yeah, I don't have much to add. I'm, I guess throughout this discussion, I agreed. I agreed with the comments that were made, and I said, yes, they're right. Yes, that's right. But there's still, and it's hard to, the reason why I hesitated even, or still hesitate to express this, is because I'm not quite sure where the issue is at for me, myself. But there's, I guess, some aspect of this topic that I can go through the logical steps of, and as was written, I understand. I logically understand. I do why mercy and non-existence are not compatible. Yet at the same time, there is something that holds me back from having, I guess, complete or perfect certainty that I will be resurrected. And it's not a matter of can he, or if there is, who will. Those questions are not the issue for me, but rather, how do I know that I will? And I don't know. I mean, it might seem like a very basic question, because even myself, I have probably numerous occasions kind of lined out explanations for it, or indications for it, our needs as human beings and how those point to it, and everything that we experience and observe in the universe. But I don't know, this topic has always kind of been on my mind. And recently I was talking with a woman who's not Muslim, but the topic of death came up, and she said, that she was talking about her mother. She herself is 74 years old, but she was talking about her mother who had passed away because she had just lost the will to live anymore. After like everyone that she knew had died, her mother at age 95 just also apparently died. And partly because, as this lady described it, she had just lost the will to live. And she said, as you get older, you start thinking more about these issues. And I was just thinking, well, death doesn't really look at age always, I think about it often. That kind of paved open the conversation, and we were talking about the nature of death and whatnot. And her reasoning within her own world was, I'm sure many of us have kind of heard of this sort of analogy of, of a baby being in the womb and not exactly knowing and not wanting to leave, and yet the world, we're born into the world, which is of a sort of complete different nature. But again, there's just something, I guess, because it's not, I mean, yes, for example, I'm being given existence every single moment, but I don't know if I can say I experienced death like the big death, I guess, in which I can just say or expect some other, and it's not even a matter of expectation, but anyways, just to wrap up, it's just, I don't know, I don't know if is it possible to have that certainty? And I don't know if any of this resonates with anyone else, but yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Jazakallah khairan, for sharing. I do think that this resonates with me. I'm also not sure about so what we mean with certainty. If with certainty, we simply mean, yeah, I don't have doubt that this will happen. I have this feeling of security, being in the hands of the one who created me in the first place and the one who sustains me constantly. Yes, I have, at least from time to time, this feeling of security. But at the same time, when it comes to something unseen, I guess there's a limit in the level of certainty that we can reach. Otherwise, it won't be an unseen for us. So when I say, that this limit of certainty, to me, at least, it seems like that there won't be any moment, there will not be any moment in which I will say, okay, it's done for me. I'm okay with it. There is nothing more that I can learn. There is nothing more, that I can understand. My certainty cannot increase anymore. I'm that level. I'm Dr. Manhattan. I'm, the last Highlander, that I know everything. I don't think there is, such a moment. There is always an unseen part of whatever I have certainty for. This is maybe the reason the same author, when he talks about afterlife at certain places, he gives this analogy of lottery. It is kind of lottery that the outcome is almost certain, that you will not go to non-existence, that for sure, but still it is a lottery. Meaning there is always a kind of uncertainty. I might be wrong, and this is, there may be a controversial topic, which is good. So let's hear what others think, starting with Suhail, if he is available.
Assalamu alaikum. It's interesting comments that you and Aishanur mentioned. I do think that man vacillates, he oscillates between certainty and uncertainty, but I don't think it's necessarily because of the inability to be certain, or the unavailability of absolute certainty, because purely from like a rationale, any conclusion must be certain. Any logical conclusion must be certain. Otherwise, it's not logical. But the question is then, I guess, if your sort of emotions or heart accepts it. And that's another matter. So to me, it's not it's, certainty is not unachievable because it's unseen, but the fact that something is unseen and you can conclude it is why you achieve certainty. Otherwise, if it were obvious, as in like, if the resurrection were so obvious in the sense of resurrection after death, there's no need to be certain. It's not a conclusion by your intellect and your heart. There would be no need for that. And I think that's sort of the utility of these, or the importance of these verses, is that God, my creator, knows that I do sort of oscillate. There are times when, these sort of satanic whisperings come to me and say, are you really that certain? Is it really going to happen? And I ask myself the question sometimes, as the verse asks, because the one asking in the verse is me. It's not anybody else. That's who's asking. I'm the one presenting the example. قَالَ مَن يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. And so who will give life to bones while they are disintegrated? I mean, that's a question of mine, to be honest, from time to time. And really, the only thing, if one thinks about it, is it less merciful, I guess, to continue? Sorry, is it more merciful to continue someone's existence even after they depart this world? Or is it really more merciful to give them existence to fundamentally begin with when they didn't even exist in this world at all? And I think that's what the second verse is saying. قُلْ يُحْيِي الَّذِي أَنشَأَهَا الْأَوَّلَ مَرَّةً وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ. Say he will give them life who produced them the first time, and he is of all creation knowing. In other words, I was known, or anyone or anything in existence has been known before its existence in this world manifested, when its existence manifested in this world, and when its existence will depart from this world. It's all known. So, to me, that's sort of relieving or alleviating in the sense that I didn't even have to exist in the first place. Not only did I not have to exist in the first place, I didn't even have to exist with the idea or the question that after I die, where am I going to go? I could have been a plant or an animal. I mean, not me specifically, but in the sense that my, like, the life of a rock. I mean, at least for what I know, they're not asking these questions. And yet I exist with those questions. I mean, that's sort of miraculous when you think about it. The sort of self-consciousness, self-awareness of a thing that, as the verse says, is bones. They're bones. And at one point, I was disintegrated bones anyway. It's not like my bones were there. It's just my bones, when you think about it, are just the accumulation of some soil, some plants, some meat, protein that was a part of Earth to begin with, and likewise will go back to it. So it's as if I've already experienced it. So if I experienced it at once, when there's an absolute will, and I think that's what the verse is saying, like I've forgotten my own creation. I've already experienced it once, but I'm constantly experiencing it, but at every moment. Experiencing it due to an absolute will, one who's absolutely knowledgeable. So what is the fundamental difference then between experiencing it at the end of this life in this world or at the beginning? When you look at it from that perspective on a line or a timeline, looking back and looking forward are just as equivalent. You know, it's me who says that, you know, who's concerned with the future. But as the verse points out, why am I not concerned with the past or my past? It's all the same. And I think that's kind of, you know, at least something that I use or take away from these verses, because man is so fixated on the future, something that from his perspective doesn't exist, even though it does exist from the creator's perspective. And his heart doesn't, is not satisfied with not knowing exactly how things are going to transpire. But if you look to the past, things transpire exactly as they have transpired, in the sense that as things have been given existence in the past, as just as you materialized from the void, so too you will materialize from the void in the future. No moment is fundamentally any different in that sense. It's just man who sort of projects his, I guess, insecurity and vulnerability onto the future.
Please go ahead, Yusuf.
Aishanu's question was having a more of an emphasis on will he, like, rather than whether is he going to be capable or not, but will he, or how is it, rather than how is it going to look like, will he going to resurrect, or will I going to be resurrected? I guess this was the question. So imagine a person who is like working on a visa in a foreign land, let this foreign land for that person be United States. And being on a visa, you are always anxious, because especially if it's a working visa, once your boss lays you off, you need to leave the country in many cases immediately, maybe within a month. And within that period, it's almost impossible to find a new job. So this is a good way to find, quote unquote, hardworking people, because there is no other option for that person, right? So in such people are always anxious, whether the boss will lay them off immediately, or the boss is going to be like merciful enough to give them a 3 months advance, notice. And especially imagine a case in which you are on a contract, and your contract is being renewed every year. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, there's 3 months for your contract renewal. You didn't hear back you didn't get the signature, like the signed contract yet, although your boss said, okay, we're going to extend it, but that your boss didn't really extend this contract yet, and you don't know what to do. And you are consulting with a friend, saying that, what do you think? Shall I keep being worried about? I talked to the boss said, okay, I'm going to extend it, but still there's no paperwork done. And if at the end of 3 months, if that person does not renew, I don't have anything to argue against that person. So what shall I do? So in such a case, for instance, if the boss is an unstable person, there is no way to give a guarantee to your friend. You can say, well, that person had done it before in the past. There is huge instability, and there is a decent amount of evil in that person. So yeah, it's very likely that tomorrow morning your boss will wake up in a bad mood, and then will not extend your contract, and you will need to leave the country. Or in another scenario, let's say you have been working in the same environment for 5 years. You have seen several examples of this boss, behaving, and also you have seen that maybe to a better extent how the boss behaves with the people. Like you build up some sort of a understanding of the mercifulness or evilness of that person. So then, I mean, that person is not unstable. That's what I'm trying to say. If after 5-10 years of experience with that person, if this newbie comes and asks you, what do you think? Is the boss going to fire me? Or since the boss gave me the word, do you think the contract is going to be renewed? I would say if I observe this consistency, I would say yes. First of all, the boss is capable of renewing it. We all know that. And we know that you have been in like hardworking person, and the boss is in here for maximizing the profit and whatnot. So it is in boss's advantage to extend your contract. So likewise, I guess I need to evaluate the same question in here. What is the purpose of my existence? What is happening? Because the question in here is my life going to be extended, or is my contract going to be renewed? And who is my boss in here? And of course, in our real example, I mean, in this job example, which is quite real for me, for example, still I am relying on such conclusions. But in our example of life and death, our creator is so much accessible to us, much more so than your boss is accessible to you. Maybe you know your boss only during the work times. You don't know private life of your boss, so on and so forth. But in the example of me and my creator, I can know my creator through every moment of my life, every facet, every aspect of my life. Plus, other than this first-hand experience, he gives me his guidance and the prophet to tell me the story from the other side as well. And to the extent that I observe, as in this verse, وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ, the creator is saying that he has full knowledge of all the creation. And my desire for eternity is part of that knowledge. He is aware of what he gave to you. Knowingly, he is creating you with this desire, endless desire for eternity, pretty much like he gave you this constant desire of fresh air and water. And day in, day out, you already experience that very consistently. The creator is fulfilling the needs that he creates in you. He first creates the need, then creates the result of it. And even if you take it in a larger scale, what is the ultimate purpose of my existence? My existence is to get to know my creator. But to what extent do I get to know him in this existence? So I am realizing that as if I am building up a knowledge base in here, and it doesn't make sense at all to bury this knowledge of the creator under the earth and to let it rot. I don't see a wasteful creator in my experience throughout my existence. So if I add up all these, I would say he should resurrect me. So to the question of will he, so I guess this sort of experience with my creator gives me assurance that he should. To the extent, I guess this should to must is the thing that would change to the extent that I experience more and more, get to know my creator more and more. So I would think to the extent that I know him more, I'm going to be much more sure that this resurrection would happen. So I understand and agree with Suhail in terms of a logical conclusion being binary, either it's 0 or 1, but also in terms of making it a second nature, if you like. How much confident I am with that conclusion, how much do I sense it? How much do I feel it? I mean, not just like oh yeah, 1 + 1 = 2, because the same thing might go with proving the existence of the creator. proving his existence is one thing, but sensing, feeling the presence of the creator 24/7 is another thing. So I guess this certainty can also be taken as how much am I aware and benefiting from that certainty. So sorry, I took too much of your time for with this simple example.
Jazakallah khairan. No, not at all. This is extremely helpful and important. So Aziz, I saw your hand. I will give you the mic in a moment if you are still willing to speak. But before that, I guess, so I don't want this to be a methodological discussion since we don't have much time. Maybe we can continue next week. But I guess even if it is true that these logical conclusions have some properties like being binary or not, even if it is true, let's assume it is true, it still that does not answer my question. Because the certainty is not only about the certainty of the method that you reach to the conclusion. The certainty is about the object of this conclusion. So when I conclude something using, let's say, logical reasoning, what this logical reasoning brings could be certain. But my answer, my question, is usually much bigger than what this logical conclusion brings to me. So what I'm trying to say is, when I said I am certain about the afterlife, I can be only certain about, whether it will be exist or not, whether there is proofs for the existence of the afterlife or not. Any conclusion, any methodology of conclusion can bring me a certainty about, let's say, its existence, a kind of existence, not even, a certain type of existence, but just, a kind of existence is probably there, like, let's say, with 100% there. But this is not the entirety of my question. There is still uncertainty in the rest of my question regarding what kind of existence we're talking about. Am I going to be happy or not? Am I going to be tortured or not? Am I going to be satisfied with this or not? The answers that a human being is after is usually, not usually, always much bigger than any logical conclusion can take us. Otherwise, I think we wouldn't need any revelation at all. So I guess the approach the way we approach the revelation shouldn't be that, if I look at the universe, I already conclude all these things using my mind. I'm already certain about everything. And revelation comes and I say, oh yeah, this is true, because what? I already concluded. I think in such a case, news from unseen is unnecessary. The same goes with this afterlife or resurrection, even if we take it in a certain meaning, which the real death or special death, without revelation telling me that I will be resurrected, I cannot come to this conclusion myself. It has to be revelation that tells me that you will be resurrected, you will be called from your graves, and then what I can do after that, I can confirm this news. I can say, yes, this news fits to my reality. It gives me satisfaction. I am peaceful with this news. Not that, I could already can conclude this news without a revelation. It is that certain. No, I need to hear this news. And I can only confirm that, yes, it makes sense to me, that it's something that I can believe because it fits to my reality. But even with this form, it's only true for my current moment in which my answer, has some, let's say, the limits. But the next moment, my question, sorry, but the next moment I will have a bigger question, which will be different in the context, in its content, sorry. And whatever binary conclusion I come up with, it will not exhaust the answer that I'm looking for. So again, I think, at least personally, it's not only an oscillation that I am certain in a moment and then I forget I have to be certain in the next moment. I guess this is more than that. I am certain about only a particular thing in any given moment. But my answers that would satisfy me, which usually require more than this particular certainty that I have. Suhail, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not sure I completely agree with that sentiment, but nevertheless, I mean, to Aisha Noor's question about will he, can he, and to your point of will I be satisfied? I think, to me, it always comes back to what sentiment I project onto the creator, in the sense that no, I do agree with you in that I need revelation to make not only a conclusion about resurrection, the conclusion about any matter of belief. Without any sort of inspiration, personal or revelation, I couldn't make any conclusion. I need to be exposed to the idea. But after I have that idea, the issue is, what is my sort of attitude or projection of that idea into my world? Or how do I project that out there? So for example, if I'm certain that he can, and I'm certain that he will, am I certain also that I will be treated well? And that really stems from myself, my sort of my view or my attitude towards my creator. If in a sense I'm indifferent about the resurrection and indifferent about how I should feel about it, or indifferent about how I should be treated, then that's kind of how that's how my creator will treat me, in the sense that how I feel about it is almost personal, and how I will be treated becomes personal. So if I have hope and trust in the creator, it's sort of self-reinforcing. It's like a positive reinforcement, in the sense that that feeling or that quality or sentiment and hope is also given to me, as much as I sort of reflect on it. And that hope is potentially how, or will, God willing, how he will treat me, and not only in this life but in the afterlife. And the last thing I'll say is it's, to me, like, especially with these verses, I don't see, like, to me, it doesn't make a distinction between resurrection or this life. In the sense, it's all the same continuum. So if I'm, let's say, certain he can bring tomorrow into existence, and that he will in some form of another, and I'm going to be a part of that existence, let's say. What is my attitude towards it? Well, I can't necessarily predict the future, but I can choose how I view it, no matter what happens. You know, maybe tomorrow something unfortunate befalls my life, but the only thing I choose to do is how I view it. And to me, that's the same with the resurrection, because it's not any fundamentally any different than tomorrow, if there is a world tomorrow. But what isn't affected necessarily by a new moment is how I view it. That's up to me. That's my choice. And likewise, my choice about how I view the hereafter. So, you know, like that's why when if one were to say, well, I'm not certain that my creator will treat me mercifully. Well, one can make the same point about today then. I'm not certain if he will treat me mercifully, or if he'll treat me mercifully tomorrow. But the very fact that I exist and I can even ask that question, and the very fact that I even ask that question means I want to be treated mercifully. I mean, I think that's where the answer is that, you know, the very fact that that sentiment or that pull to want to be treated mercifully exists means I'll be treated mercifully, whether today, tomorrow, or sometime into the future. But again, it's all begins with my choice of how I view things at the end of the day.
Jazakallah khairan, that this clarifies a lot, at least for me. Let's conclude with a beautiful and long comment from Hatija Beyza, inshallah. The repetition of need for certainty does not necessarily indicate the lack of certainty of the thing I need. If anything, constantly repeated needs emphasize that both what I need and my need for certainty for that thing are absolute. So long as that which I need is absolute, my need for it must be absolute too. And so I am absolutely in need of aligning my reasoning and feelings at all times. Though absolute certainty, including certainty at all times, is something that I can strive for, though can never claim to have at all times because of the limitedness of my own createdness. Jazakallah khairan. Aziz, would you like to make your comments before I end the discussion? You are more than welcome, because I see you raised
I will make it very brief. I just had this urge to share. Like, I felt like there were two things, and they are irritating me. They're not really solutions to this problem. I feel like I was giving this knowledge about my terminal illness, that I would die, basically, and I had knowledge basically since I was a child. And I almost sometimes wonder if my dog has it and if he's blessed to not have it. So that knowledge, I feel like, is just something I was given, but it's irritating me. And the second one is like, I feel like I was also giving this addiction to this version of me. And when we speak about life after death, no, I want this as this. I don't want another version. Like, I want this. And I think that irritates me. Anyways, just wanted to share these things. Thank you.
Oh, this is important. Thank you for sharing your comments, because yes, due to our limited beings, like limited ideas and so on, the limitation in knowing ourselves comes most of the time the uncertainty. Okay, let's conclude the discussion for today. Just maybe for a clarification as a final word, please don't get my comments as if I'm a proponent of the idea that we cannot be certain about things, that the uncertainties will be always there. Rather, I'm trying to say that we can only be certain about certain things. And there will be always new questions waiting for us. Anyway, let's conclude, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.